January 13th. Tonight, we're going to start off with an invocation, and then a pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Carney.
Good evening. I have got a thought. The most important thing in life is to stop saying I wish and start saying I will. Consider nothing impossible, then treat possibilities as probabilities. Charles Dickens. If you'll join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for those words. Looking over the agenda tonight, does anyone have a conflict of interest they'd like to disclose? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. So our active agenda, we'll open this up to public comments. If anyone has a comment, please come to the microphone. Keep your comments under 5 minutes and say your name. And if you're a resident in North Ogden, thank you. And then John will watch for us online. Okay. No public comments? Again, no. All right, no comments tonight. So now we'll move on. Discussion and/or action to reappoint our city recorder, Ryan Santoro. Our presenters, our city manager, John Call.
So council, the Utah changed the rule a couple of years ago that says the recorder and the treasurer, so I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, are appointed until they're replaced, and they changed it to say they have to be reappointed after a new local election. So it allows you as the new council to decide who you'd like to be those two positions. Those are the only two positions in the city that are statutorily required, a treasurer and a recorder. Recorder's in charge of the documents and the audit. Treasurer's in charge of the revenues that come into the city, not technically the expenditures, but just kind of watching the city coffers and investment portfolio. So that's Ryan has done a good job. You can keep her or you could appoint somebody else, but we would recommend, from my perspective, that you reappoint Ryan as the city recorder.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions? Or I'd be looking for a motion to appoint Ryan Santoro as our city recorder.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint city recorder Ryan Santoro. She's done a great job.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This can be a roll call vote. So tonight we'll start with Councilmember Pulver and work our way down the line. Councilmember Pulver?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Carney?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dalpaz?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Now we'll move on. Discussion and/or action to reappoint our city treasurer, Casey Hunsaker. And again, city manager John Call is going to lead.
Same discussion about the requirement that we reappoint essentially every 2 years. Casey also has been doing a great job. This is his first role as a treasurer, and he started with us in the Public Works Department and has been really good, really grown in his career, and we're excited to have Casey here. Would recommend him to continue in this position as well.
All right, any questions, comments, or be looking for a motion to reappoint Casey Hunsaker as our city treasurer?
Mayor Barker, I move that we reappoint City Treasurer Casey Hunsaker for the North Ogden City.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalpaz. Looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pulver. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Carney?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dalpaz?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. All right, next item is discussion and action to appoint our mayor pro tem, and I will be leading. So I have to appoint present somebody to take my place if I'm not here. And I'm going to present Councilmember Dalpaz as my appointee. Any questions, concerns? Or if not, I look for a motion to approve Councilmember Dalpaz as the mayor pro tem.
Mayor, I motion that we appoint Councilmember Delpaz as the mayor pro tem.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Pulver, a second by Councilmember Watson. Roll call, Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Carney,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good luck, Councilmember Dowpaz.
You're the last vote.
Yeah,
Never go on vacation.
that was your
please.
chance to vote yes.
Mayor, I would like to make a suggestion that we bring item 9 up before item 6, as it is someone that could make a presentation and possibly get out of here.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend our agenda, item 9, moving to now. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Carney. This will just be a voice vote, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're moving that up. So now we'll move on to item number 9, which is now 6. Discussion to enter action to approve the transition from Express Bill Pay to Cassell Community Connect portal, and our presenter will be our newly reappointed city treasurer, Casey Hunsaker.
Good evening, council. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you today. As part of my requirements part of my role as being the city treasurer is to look over how the revenues come into the city. Right now, we use Express Bill Pay for our utility billing and a few of our other payment methods. We are looking at opportunities and to save and to be more effective with streamlined with our processes. And so we were presented with an opportunity to switch to Cassell. Cassell is our accounting software. And so if we feel like if we were to move to this portal, it helps us bring it all under one umbrella and be more effective that way. And so I just have a few slides here to share with you if we can get it to work. Maybe.
No, your
It was
screensaver was there. There you go.
yeah, my girls were there, but so why should we change? We did a cost analysis, and I have Mark Alleman here with Cassell. If you have any questions for him, he's happy to answer questions as well. And he's also happy to log into the portal after the presentation and kind of show you what it is and why we think it'll be such a benefit to the city. So we did a cost analysis. Changing from Express Bill Pay to the Cassell portal will be a lower monthly cost. With some of our APIs, some of our integrations that we have, they're no longer working with Express Bill Pay. Namely our work management system, iWork. All of our new modules that we have on iWork, they're telling us that they no longer support Express Bill Pay. So we've had to go to a different merchant vendor with Payrock for the planning and zoning fees and everything like that. This portal, like I said, it gives us a full integration with our Cassell software, which is our accounting software. So all of our utility payments would be housed in one. So it'll simplify the reconciliation process that I do on a daily basis. And it'll gives us the opportunity to view payments live. So as citizens, you could go on and pay your bill, and it'll automatically be reflected on your account, and you'll be able to see that change. Right now, when you pay your bill through Express Bill Pay, you have to wait for us to pull it in the morning, and then it updates your account, and then you could see your account that way. So with this new portal, those payments are live. And it's important to note that this new portal, we anticipate doing a soft launch with all of the council members and the city staff who live here in North Ogden, and asking them to join it first so we can kind of make sure that it works well and it's what we want. But it's important to note that if it isn't what we really want, we are able to get back out of it because the agreement is a month to month. And that agreement, I believe, was included in the packet. And it was signed back in December just to secure the pricing for this year, with the understanding that it wasn't valid until after tonight's meeting, upon approval from you guys, the council. And so on this next slide, I kind of broke down. I used the numbers for October 2025 and what we paid through Express Bill Pay and Payment Tech. So our effective rate there was 3.03%, and we paid Express Bill Pay $4,700. And then on top of that, we paid Payment Tech Chase, which is the bank that held our money, $3,300. And then we processed $267,000 in the month of October. And so with that 3.03%, our total fee was $8,100. And it's important to note that the Payment Tech, so with Express Bill Pay, when you pay your utility bill, with Express Bill Pay and Payment Tech, it goes into that account. Payment Tech actually holds that money in their bank, and they're making the interest off of it. We're not making interest off of it. It's not interest bearing. And so with the new Cassell Community Connect portal that we're proposing, our rate would be 2.83, which is 2.25% plus 30 cents per transaction. So with that same amount that we processed in October, our total fee would have been $7,500, which is a $544 a month savings. And with the Community Connect portal, those payments will go directly into our bank account. And so that money won't be sitting in somebody else's bank account bearing interest. It'll be working for us instead of for somebody else, for another guy. So what do we need to do? So residents are going to need to sign up for the new portal, and they're going to need to set up their auto pay. I put on here that Express Bill Pay will need to be removed by residents. However, right before the meeting, I actually went onto Express Bill Pay and looked at the configuration settings, and there's actually a button that I can click to turn off all the auto pays. So we won't have to worry about that. I would suggest, talking with John, we would suggest a grace period on utility bills as we switch, because people might miss them because they're used to their bills being on auto pay. And then when they get their notice, hopefully that will spur them to go on and get set up on auto pay on the new portal. And then what the most important thing I think that we need, though, is buy-in from U4 or U5, to encourage residents to go on. I know in this day and age, when you see a QR code, you should always be hesitant to scan it, because you never know if it's a scam or a virus or something. That's not what we're doing. So if we put a QR code out there, it's legitimate, and we'll use it to help create these accounts. So the buy-in from you guys to encourage your neighbors and friends to sign up is going to be key for us. And that's really what we need. And like I said, it's a savings, it's a cost savings, it's a time savings as well. It'll cut down some of the processes that I do on a daily basis that will allow me to focus on other aspects of my position. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or Mark's happy to answer questions as well. Or he said he's happy to come up and show you the portal and what it will look like if you're interested in that.
Okay. Councilmember Watson, go ahead.
Casey, from your perspective, we've used Cassell in other ways in the city so far already. In your perspective, it's been a good program. You've liked it. You haven't had complaints or concerns.
Yes. Yeah. I think their support is it's very well done. There's a lot of programs out there that do a lot of different things, but I think Cassell, for what we use it for, and the fact that so many of our staff are well trained in Cassell, I think this is definitely a good direction to move the city in, so that we can simplify and keep things going into that, organizing the channels.
Be concise.
Okay. Councilmember Pulver.
So the fee is a fixed fee? Is it adjustable per year, or do they Is it, a certain timeline that the whatever plus 30 cents or whatever, is that something that changes every year?
So the 2.83%.
Yes.
Mark, can you speak to that? This is Mark Alleman. He's with Cassell.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So the fee, oh, I didn't do it. It's just gonna do its own little dance. Okay. The fee kind of fits with market variable. So there, at some future point, we assume it would go up. We don't really, so we work with, on the back end, Zift is the processor that's actually doing all of these payments. And we work with them to get those rates. And that's something he did an excellent job on, was helping negotiate those rates and getting a lower rate than we typically see with other cities. So that fee, we don't have any set timeline of when or if it would go up. That would be on direction from the processor partner we work with, Zift. But in my time here with Cassell doing the portal, we haven't seen them raise our rates. So anybody's rates.
So, but the key thing, I think you mentioned it too, is that there's no, I say float, but the money goes directly into our account. It doesn't flip and sit there for a month in someplace else or whatever. So
Yeah. So with Express Bill Pay, I have to manually go in every 2 weeks to transfer the money from Payment Tech to our Wells Fargo account. With this, it would go directly into the Wells Fargo account. And it's important to note, as I've worked in the Zift program, getting this ready and looking around, I filled out some paperwork to try to get this ready to go. And I noticed their actual fee is typically 4%, and Cassell has been able to talk them down to this 2.83. So, and with that difference, I feel like that's a good cost share.
yeah, and I guess so. You were mentioning the planning. Does the planning already use Cassell, or they use? You said something.
So planning and zoning, they have a module that they can do payments through iWork now. And so that's a separate merchant.
Okay.
And so Cassell's actually working on building some different APIs of those integrations to widen their payment processing. They started with utility billing, and they could do our accounts receivable and some other things like that. And eventually, hopefully, maybe we'll eventually bring planning and zoning over to the Cassell portal as well. It's kind of how I envision it, and that would be my goal, is to get all the payments into one channel instead of having, Square and Stripe and Payrock and Express and having them all kind of consolidated.
And the key thing, I think you mentioned it too, is that it's live, and so you don't have to wait to see if the resident actually did pay. You can see, and they can see that they did. So I think that's really good too. I think that was, what was the other thing? And it's free to citizens. There's no charge on the other end
Correct.
to make the payment. Okay.
Correct. So yeah, we can't charge for the utility. We don't charge the service fee for the utility because that's prohibited by Visa, I believe. And then I believe it's the same, whatever fees we charged through Express will be charged,
Okay.
same fee structure to.
And so the timeline would be that some people would do it for 1 or 2 months, or
Yeah, so we're hoping that we can get staff and council on it by February, so we can have that month to experience it and see if there's any bugs that we need to work out, and then to start rolling it out to citizens in March for the March billing cycle, and knowing that there's probably going to need to be some kind of a grace period for missed payments and shutoffs.
cool. Thanks.
Councilmember Carney.
That was going to be my question, is once it goes to the citizens, how are we going to let them all know that they all need to get on and set up their own payment arrangements?
So there's a way on Express I can send out a notification to all those people that are on there. They showed it to me. I can find it again. If I had a little bit more time, I could probably find it. And I can send out a notification to them and say, hey, you need to go to this site and create an account and set up your auto pay. And then we're also going to have public messaging, Facebook, working with our Facebook manager to make sure that those messagings that messaging gets out there so that we're as clear as possible with our citizens. And we just want them to know that we're looking for the best way to use the taxpayer money and to be cost effective in it.
How would bill pay through credit unions and banks work with this transition? Would it be an individual just needs to go into their bill pay and change what do they have to do in that situation?
No, nothing will change with that. Bank bill pay, it doesn't typically go to Express Bill Pay. It goes to our lockbox, which is a completely separate service through Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And so typically what happens is the credit union or the bank sends a check to Seattle and they scan it in for us. And then I download a file every day and put it into Cassell that way.
That's good. Thanks.
Councilmember Watson.
In years past, when we have changed something like this that does require something of every citizen, have we ever sent out mail? I don't know what that would cost, if it's redundant or essential.
So that would have been before my time. So we've been with Express Bill Pay since 2006. So I don't know that we've ever done something that's this big of a lift, really. And so we could definitely look at that and send out a postcard flyer or something and saying, hey, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to go. I'm sure Cassell could probably help us with that with their implementation team.
Yeah, our implementation team has helped in the past. One major thing we've done that's helped a lot is we put a QR code that goes to the new portal on the utility bill. So the one that you print, it can get sent out with that QR code. Scan that.
Is that possible I thought we had limits on the Express Bill Pay that we only had like one line that we could bill. Is that?
I'm not sure on that.
John, have you said before that on our Express Bill Pay bill that goes out, there's only like one line that we can add something to? Are we allowed to put in a QR code?
So on the physical bill that's mailed,
Yes.
it's text only.
Yes.
We can do an insert that has a QR code on it.
Oh, we
It just
do inserts.
yeah, it just costs a little bit per insert.
Okay.
Couldn't we also put a line that says, new billing situation, go to www and go an
Yeah.
exact link that they could type in, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's an idea too.
Insert. Yeah, I'm fine with that without the insert, as long as there was some kind of, wish we could make it in red. Probably not,
Yeah.
but something big.
Yeah, that's definitely something to note and something that we could plan to do.
Okay, any other questions? Now I'd be looking for a motion to approve or deny a transition from Express Bill Pay to Cassell Community Connect portal as the city's payment processor.
I move that we approve the transition to Cassell Community Connect as our city's payment processor.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dowpaz. Looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pulver. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Harney,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Okay, it passed.
Thank you, Council.
Yep, thank you, Casey and Mark, right? Okay, good. I was making sure I remembered it. All right, we'll go back to item number 6, which is now 7, right? And I'm not gonna do it. Sorry, my little kids popped into my head right there with their 6, 7 stuff. All right, we're gonna hold a public hearing to discussion under action to adopt ordinance 2026-01, the 2025-2026 fiscal year mid-year budget amendment, and our presenter will be Peter, our finance director.
Thank you. Can you hear me from down there? You can. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. Just go big so I can see it. Oh, maybe that won't work. I'll go small. There we go. All right. So this is something that government entities typically do during the middle of our budget season. We kind of take a look back at our prior 6 months and see what we need to do to make some changes. And so we've gone through that, given the staff an opportunity to weigh in on things that we have to adjust for our 26th fiscal year. So what we did was we sent the tentative budget out last week, and today we're going to be presenting that along with other updates to that tentative budget. And so what I'm going to recommend that you do is if you have that budget, you can follow along by the page number. You might see a blank where I'm making an update. Just recognize that's going to be an update to that line. When we're done, we're going to make a recommendation to propose the budget according to the presentation. So if you have any questions, you should be able to follow along either on the tentative one that was sent out last week, or I think I sent you all an updated one as well. So goals of the mid-year adjustment. So we want to sort of limit this. We could have looked at every single line and been super exact. But what we wanted to do mostly was just look at some true ups and some changes, our calculated amounts, look at some really big things that needed to be switched up. First was to true up our revenue actuals. We had some revenue that was recorded that we didn't anticipate. I mean, it's there sitting in our actual column. Might as well put it in the budget so that we have it there so that we can anticipate it. We have some calculation errors. Some of those were small, as you'll see, but it's kind of, I like to make sure that when we calculate, for example, when we charge our general fund or charge our enterprise funds to cover our general fund costs, I want to make sure that it is structured according to the calculations that we had originally set up. So you'll see some of that. There'll be $100 moving here or there. Just recognize what we're trying to do is just tie it all up so that it all sort of matches up. The third thing was looking at material expenses and revenue estimates. Materials kind of it's a catch-all phrase. Substantive, I know, is there a percentage? Not really, but I would say anywhere from like $10,000 or more, we wanted to try to capture that. And then the final thing is we have some vehicle purchases that we're in the market of trying to take care of soon. We wanted to make sure we captured that ability. The way we do our vehicle purchases here, we buy and sell, and so you'll see that come in. It'll pop our budget up quite a bit, so that we can purchase those. But then we also sell, and so there's a differential there between what we buy and what we sell, to about $45,000. So you'll see that in here as we kind of move through it. So starting with general fund, if you go to page 1, we had excavation fee permits. It was originally in the budget for $8,000, but we have an actual amount of $68,000. So we wanted to go ahead and recognize that. Sometimes we have one-off things like this that come through, so we just want to make sure that we capture it. If you go to page 2, this is where we're capturing the sale of our vehicle assets to $610,000. As well, on page 2, we have some amphitheater revenue that came in that was kind of surprising. We've done some programs there at the amphitheater at Barker Park, and that's great. So now we have a new revenue stream we can sort of kind of watch for and capture. Same thing with miscellaneous revenue. I popped that up from 6,000 to 12,500. We have a wellness grant for the police that originally was at 22,700. We have a little more money that came in, so we have adjusted that up to 30 grand. With grants, we'll do it on both sides. So we'll have the revenue side come up, and then we'll have the expenditure side come up to match. So you'll see that kind of down the road. And finally, on page 2, we applied for ramp grants from the county. These are recreational programs that they capture some tax money for. They have a committee there at the county that will then award those back to localities, municipalities, and this is what we anticipate we're going to get from that grant. And so we've asked to put 35,000 more in the budget with a matching expenditure as well. This is for a recreation program, I believe. I can't remember what one of the parks it was proposed for.
Hey, Peter,
Yes.
that last one I wasn't following in the budget. The number matches with grants and mental wellness. I just wanted to make
Oh, did
sure
I
I'm
do it? Do I-
following it.
Those bottom two on the right should be flipped.
Were they mixed? Were they flipped?
Oh, okay, so that's all it was is two transposed?
Yep. So
Okay,
112 should be 115
thank you.
and vice versa. That was the only.
It's right in the, I think it's right in
It's right next to each other. Yeah.
the one I sent. Are you looking at the new one I sent you?
Probably the old, it's
Oh,
with the
okay.
agenda.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Go to your email.
Okay,
funnel.
I'll go to my email. Thanks.
On the expenditures, what I wanted to do here is sort of just give an overview of our admin fee offset. I was trying to true this up. Our admin fee is what our enterprise funds charge, or what we charge in the general fund I want to get this right. Our enterprise funds, we do work on behalf of our enterprise funds in the general fund. My time, John's time, we charge those funds for that. And so we had a calculation, and this was just an attempt to true that up so that it all matched. And so you'll see, for example, on page 3, we went from 27,400 to 26,700, which isn't a large amount. The largest one was in our non-departmental that went from 236,700 to 275,500. Overall, that equates to another 37,600 into the general fund. And so that's what that is pointing to. The next thing we wanted to cover was, due to the Willard Peak fire, we had about $10,000 of unanticipated revenue expenditures. We're not supposed to revenue. Expenditures that we had to spend to deal with that emergency. And at the time, we just sort of used the fund balance to cover that. We're just formally putting that back up into the budget to recognize the costs of that, fighting that fire from the county's standpoint. Most of that went to heavy equipment and rentals of machinery that had to help with the roads and brush trucks and things like that we had to rent. So we put that back up in the emergency management fund. And then the final one on this, and if you need to stop me and have any questions, go ahead, feel free. The final one on this was just a true up from motor pool lease. We'll talk a little bit about the motor pool. Same thing with the admin fee, offset charge. Our motor pool fund charges our water fund, all of our enterprise funds, and our general fund to fix vehicles. We just wanted to true that up a little bit according to our calculations that we'd already sort of structured. Most of it's not material, but you can just blame me for being kind of wanting to be exact on that. So that goes from 672 to 679.9. Same, more motor pool lease, more motor pool lease changes. So just through here, the overall change to that is $7,500, but it's not to the general fund. It's just away from because I'm including enterprise funds in here too. So just going through from top to bottom, we adjusted 672 to 679.9, that to the police, and then adjusted 48 to 11,300 for, I think that's building inspection. That's on page 8. And then 79 to 767.4, that's streets. And 1064,250 was an adjustment down. I wish I would have put the title on there, but that's the GL that it's going to. Overall, it is a $7,500 credit to the general fund. Any questions about motor pool lease? That might be a little kind of complicated to wrap your head around, but just trying to match those up. All right, moving on page 7, this is the expenditure side of the wellness grant that we're adjusting as well. On page 9, we've adjusted purchase equipment. This is where we're going to be paying for our new vehicles. So I gave you the selling side of it. This is the expenditure side of it. And these are vehicles we're going to be purchasing on behalf of general fund operations. And then the final one on here is the ramp expenditure that matches the grant. We already had an amount in there, so we're just popping that up to match the revenue amount. Okay. Overall, in our general fund, it improves by 81,500. And that includes moving some, if you look on the original tentative budget, we had to put 36,100 into the fund balance. We decided, no, we're going to move that up and just take it from last year's fund balance. We're not going to plan to have a fund balance. We're going to just take it from what we thought was going to be last year's. And so that's the overall end result for the general fund. Are there any questions on general fund before I move on?
Any question?
No, we're just,
That's okay.
we're catching up. No, I think, so was it a net? Because
net.
usually in the past with car leases and swaps and sales, it's close to a net zero. Is that?
The estimate I was given was around 45,000. It's not a net zero, but when you're talking 600,000 to, that's the amount that we have an estimate on right now. I have a contingency in the motor pool fund as well, just in case we're a little nervous about the car market right now. We're concerned that the car market is going down. So I have a contingency in the motor pool fund to cover that in case we need to use that for any reason. You'll see that as I go down the slides.
Okay. And then you said that you were pulling up the last thing you said about the fund
We had, on the tentative, I had put the line amount as we're going to plan to put that to fund balance. Now we're saying, let's just not take as much fund balance from last year. And let's plan to just have we're going to go to a zero.
Okay.
We're not going to plan a fund balance.
That's what I thought you were trying to say, but I didn't hear.
I'm glad you responded back, because I
Yes.
know that can be a little bit circular. So, okay. So moving on to Cherry Days, part of that ramp grant includes $25,000 that we'd like to put in the budget to recognize the grant coming in for Cherry Days. It's really going to be good. We do have a $31,000 transfer from the general fund to help us kind of cover Cherry Days. So when this comes in, that should help that not be so high. I didn't make any changes to the transfer line, just kind of left it as is. But when we get to actually, you know what, John? I think this is for next year.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's strike this one.
But that's why on your earlier thing, you didn't put this 25 in the ramp budget, because it wouldn't be available for next year. Yeah.
Let's strike this one. We're not going to, this is for next year. So let's just move on. Because Cherry Days is done for this year. It happened last year. So.
And it is helpful because council, the ramp discussion is part of the budget tonight, just so that you know what we're applying for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. In our capital fund, again, going back to the ramp grant, one of the pieces of the ramp grant was a $200,000 ask for help to improve Barker Park. There was already $200,000 in there in that line. So this pops that up to $400,000 with an additional expenditure line of $200,000. So it's going to bring that up when that grant comes in. We adjusted some funds for Loman View that had an amount last year. They went past that amount, but we had fund balance that we felt confident that we could use to finish that project. So I've put that in there as well. And then the final thing is for our park renovation line, and this just covers all of our parks. We had an amount in the budget last year that we didn't use. It was around $200,000, and we didn't actually use it because we kind of ran out of runway that year ended. So I'm just populating this again in fund year 26. We didn't spend it elsewhere. So we're just rolling it forward. And with capital, that's sort of how we're going to start doing things moving forward is once we approve a capital project, if we don't get it spent by the end of the fiscal year, we're just going to roll it forward to the next year. As long as we haven't used the savings somewhere else to spend on other projects.
So question on the one Barker Park plus up, and I hesitate to say that, but that's what it looks like, but it's not really, because we're just going to use the 200K to do the detailed planning. We're not making it 400, right?
This is a different, this is a
Okay.
different line. This is to fix or to expand the playground and the Boweries on
Gotcha.
the south side of the hollow in the existing finished park.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on to our enterprise funds, we adjusted a sale of assets line. Somebody asked me, why do we have all these sale of assets we didn't anticipate? When we sold some of our vehicles from last year, we didn't get some of them sold until this year. So that's why you're seeing these lines here that we didn't anticipate because it just rolled over to the new year. So we're just putting those lines in so we have an accurate amount. The next two down are just corrected calculations. They are just based on those fees that we already talked about. This is the other side. So you have the revenue side, and this is the expenditure side. Same thing with the sewer fund. Again, there's a sale of asset of 37,000 we wanted to capture. And then there's those true ups from the motor pool and the admin fee offset that we wanted to make those sort of match up. And then the same thing with storm water fund, same situation. We wanted to add 148,000 on the sale of asset, and then there's just true ups with those admin fees and motor pool fees. The last one, solid waste. The only difference between this and the others is that there was a request to up the amount for garbage can replacement. There was some extra garbage cans they had to purchase. They didn't anticipate costs. So we're moving that from 45,200 to 67,900 to replace the garbage cans in this fund.
Question on that. I know Dave's going to probably smack me, but is this covered by a revenue increase because, usually when you, new resident, don't they pay for it up front?
I don't know.
Okay.
Or Dave can answer maybe.
Yeah, so, but most of these, where you're seeing this it's those garbage cans that we purchased 25 years ago that we're just starting to, it's a large number that are starting to fall apart and we're having to replace.
Like wheels falling off, like
that kind of
mine's
stuff,
close.
breaking, the plastic breaking and that kind of stuff. And so we try to anticipate how many we were going to have to replace this year. And it's just, it just seems like it's one of those things where we did a massive change out 25 years ago and now it's kind of coming back to us a little bit. And so we're just trying to keep up with that. I mean, we've lowered the cost of the cans by going to this new company and everything. And so we've saved a lot of money that way, but it's just a lot of cans that we're still having to replace because they are 25 years old, in a lot of cases.
Thanks.
And then on our motor pool fund, these are the last two slides here. We had a recognized sale of assets to the motor pool fund as well that we wanted to capture. The next little column there is, this is the other side of the calculation error adjustments. As you can see at the bottom, it wasn't a whole lot. It amounted to about $10,000 reduction in revenue. But again, we're just we wanted those calculations to all match. Same thing with the next column. And then the final one is, this is where I talked about the contingency. This is where we wanted to sort of, if we have issues with the selling market and we can't get the amounts, this is where my contingency sits. I'd like to rename an account number contingency. I haven't done that yet. So we're just going to put it in the capital equipment account for now. But going forward in the future, we'll have a contingency line. I think it's important, as we talk to the staff, to plan for contingencies with these vehicle sort of purchases and sales, because the market can change and we just don't know what's going to do.
So is that a, well, let's see. I think the slide's wrong. I think it should be 740, not 700, right? On the contingency or the capital equipment.
Let me look real quick.
You got 700 small equipment, so it's got to be.
Did I have the wrong PL?
Yeah.
Okay, it is page
37.
37. Sorry. 614740.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, 740.
So that one's an adjustment for potential fluctuating prices for what we can get our vehicles for, or what we are going to receive when we
Either or.
Either or.
It's just, what I don't want to have is a couple of things. I don't want to have a huge fund balance in these lines. I want to anticipate. We put it there for now. Obviously not going to use it if we don't need it, but it's there as a contingency. And there's some discussions about how to look at our motor pool fund that I've had with the staff today and the last couple of days, that we're looking at maybe just making some adjustments as how we do this going forward, because there's so much going in and out. You almost have to draw a pencil between 3 or 4 different funds to figure out how the money's all flowing. So we're going to try to make that more transparent. But what I don't want to do is just have a fund balance amount that just sits there. I want to have some plan for it. That's my plan for it right now, is just have it there as a contingency. If we don't use it, we'll find a way to save the taxpayer somehow. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Question on the grants that have been included. Is that an assumption that we will receive those grants, or have they already come back accepted and that money's guaranteed?
I think it's almost there. This is anticipation
Right.
of the grant actually being awarded. We want to make sure the money
Okay.
is budgeted.
Right.
If it comes back and we get awarded, so that there we can just go forward and actually start spending the funds, having them there. Otherwise, we'd have to come back to you with another budget amendment if it came through.
But if it's denied, then we wouldn't have the money there and we wouldn't be
We
spending
won't
it.
spend it.
Got it.
Correct.
Thank
So
you.
that's nice about grants, is if the revenue doesn't come in,
Yep.
we don't spend the budget line.
Okay.
We'll track that. And we will be coming back to you when and if the award is actually finalized. It will have to come through this body for you to accept it anyway.
Okay.
So you'll know.
Thank you.
And then the final one on police motor pool fund. Same thing as some of the others. There was a sale of asset that we wanted to capture, and then some calculation true ups that are sort of the flip side. And that's it. So, are there any other questions? The only question I guess I have is, if you decide to adopt this amended budget, we do need to not include that Cherry Days amount. And we'll make sure that we pull that out of the budget for 26 because it's going to be for 27.
Okay. Yep. Any other questions for Peter?
I don't think I have any questions. It was great to follow along line by line, and that was perfect way of doing it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then we'll open up a public hearing. This allows all the public to come up. If you have a question about the budget or any amendments, then state your name. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And the public hearing is now open.
John Erickson, I'm a resident of North Ogden. I just wanted to make sure I understand that none of these adjustments are going to affect the revenue you collect from me as a citizen. For instance, the general fund is primarily tax revenue and everything, so increased expenses there, how are they covered? And then in the enterprise funds, the same thing, because you got to get revenue from someplace to cover these increases. And I just want to make sure that like there's contingency in those funds that we're now using some, to cover some of these things. So I guess my question is the revenue source to cover the increase in expenditures. I understand some of them are just adjustments in what actually did happen, but some of them are requiring that you're increasing the revenue or the expenditure someplace, and what's the source of I just want to, make sure that you can tell me, yes, it's all covered, but it was just a question I had to make sure all these increases were covered.
We'll answer questions. Okay.
Do you want me to answer that question or?
We'll wait and see if there's any other additional questions. And okay, looks like no additional public comments, so look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Pulver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing's closed. Peter, would you like to address that question?
Yes.
Okay.
So the good news is that most of what I presented tonight largely affects revenue, not expenses. And altogether, it really doesn't affect us having to make any fee increases or any tax increases. The savings themselves are sort of a contingency. I will go on the record and say, we've been kind of tracking our sales taxes over the last quarter, and they've been, they're down from what we anticipated. And we're going to continue to track those, but it's nice to have a little bit of a buffer in case our sales tax revenues don't come in quite as high as we expected. So hopefully that's helpful.
All right, we'll be looking for any discussion or questions for Peter on the amended budget items. There's no additional questions. Just look for a motion to approve or deny ordinance 2026-01, the 2025-2026 fiscal year hold on, I'm going to actually take this back. We are going to hold this ordinance until the end of the meeting, and it affects the impact fees that we were going to discuss later. So we'll do this ordinance later in the meeting, correct?
No, it's the resolution.
The resolution. So this one we can pass?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were, oh yeah, okay. Yep.
Exclusion.
With excluding, okay. So now I'll look for a motion to approve ordinance 2026-01, the 2025-2026 fiscal year mid-year budget amendments.
Just make sure that we include with the adopted changes we talked about tonight, excluding the Cherry Days.
Correct.
Yeah, I move that we adopt ordinance 2026-01, the 2025 through 2026 fiscal year mid-year budget amendment, mentioning that on page 15, we have our Cherry Days line item that needs to be removed from this motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dowpaz.
I'll second it, but I think we need to modify it slightly.
We'll have a second by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have any additional discussion?
I think we need to amend it to say that as presented, because what's in the agenda is different than what was presented.
I will amend my motion that we accept ordinance 2026-01, the 2025 through 2026 fiscal mid-year budget amendment as presented.
Minus.
Minus page 15, which has Cherry Days numbers in it, and that will not be a part of this one.
Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any other additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. All right, move on to item now number 8, discussion and or action to approve ordinance 2026-02. It's a general plan amendment to include water use and preservation element, active transportation plan, and Southtown Center plan. And our presenter will be Scott Hess, the Community and Economic Development Director.
You bet. In fact, if you want to plug in, here you go. That's called John Scott. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have one general plan amendment tonight with 3 specific sections. Staff wants to note that I just want to highlight the time differential between when some of these plans were completed and tonight for adoption. There were, several things that happened personally and professionally and whatnot. So we have a great amount of time. So there have been actually several public hearings that have been held for each of these individual items. There was a public hearing held for all 3 of these items on August 20th, 2025, with the Planning Commission recommending for approval the Southtown Commercial Area Plan and the Active Transportation Plan, with a follow-up public hearing and approval of a recommendation of the water use preservation element on December 17th, 2025. So all 3 of these items have a positive recommendation from Planning Commission to be included in the general plan. Because the general plan is a 2015 document, these would be included at the end of it as standalone sections or as part of the appendix. So on our website, they'll each be listed individually, but would be rolled into one consistent staff rewrite of the general plan that we're currently working on and outlining. So each of these items, I don't want to take a ton of time, but we'll run through the short portion on the staff report. The Southtown Commercial Area Plan. North Ogden received a grant from Wasatch Front Regional Council through the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program to analyze the Southtown commercial area for future redevelopment opportunities. And this had a significant amount of public outreach, many public comments, and it produced a plan that could be followed. It's not an obligation for any of the developers or business owners there, but it's a revitalization and re-envisioning of the Southtown commercial area. And that's approximately 1900 to 2000 north on the east side of Washington Boulevard. Some of the businesses in there right now are, and I won't be able to hit all of them, but you've got Kurt's Plaza, Pizza Pie Cafe, Lighting Design, Pizza Man or Brilliant Lighting, Pizza Man, Jones Shirts and Signs. There's a number there, the CrossFit Building and Business. So I apologize to any of the businesses that I forgot off the top of my head. The city has limited land available for future commercial development, and future residential development will bring additional buying power and needs. So this is a key area of the city that will be redeveloped in the future. And plans like this give us the ability to hand that over to the developer or work with the developer for what the city desires. So with that being the first element recommended for approval, are there any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
More of a, well, I guess it is a question. So it's a potential thing. It's not something that, because to me, it was more like, this is the plan. Well, not necessarily, because I mean, if you read into it, you understand that it costs, not sure what the word to use, a lot of money. There we go. So it's, what's that?
Grundle.
Grundle. So I guess it's an idea. It's I guess I don't know how we're going to reference it in the general plan. Is it the words that reflect that?
It would be, in this case, it would be a specific commercial area plan. So the Wasatch Front Regional Council that represents 5 counties and 63 cities, they have this portion of their transportation funding they carve off for planning and land use elements that align with transportation resources. In this case, it's Washington Boulevard, which is a state-owned road. For us, it's, you know, one of the major roads and one of our major commercial areas. So they look at basically good land use planning that supports transportation infrastructure investment. So the road exists, we should plan around it. So it's not an obligation, but it's an opportunity, I guess. And one of the major issues with Southtown Center is that it has so many different owners. You know, it would take significant property kind of buying and collecting all of those properties, putting them together in order to create this plan specifically, or really good coordination between all those property owners. So I think one of the neat things about the Southtown Commercial Area Plan, as you look at it, is it's a phased approach. So each individual business owner or property owner could kind of take down a piece over time. But we can't really, I don't know how without the city buying the property to make it an obligation to be built exactly this way.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, when it dovetails into the thing that we talk about in the next item, that's kind of the, anyway,
Already
the opposite of what we're trying to do, but
Yeah.
that's it. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, so John, I know that's we've got a long staff report here. So the next would be the active transportation plan. This is the best way to do it. Thank you. So the active transportation plan, you can think of it as, you know, walk, bike, rolling. So this is pedestrians, bicycles, skateboard, rollerblade, American with Disability Act, anybody who needs to get around the city by any means other than motor vehicle, essentially. The city had an old trails plan. The active transportation plan considers vast, you know, wide variety of different infrastructure that the city could do. And this is citywide, along with a wayfinding system plan, so a signage plan, as well as funding indicated. And our city engineer went through this and kind of ground truth the funding requirements that it would take, or the funding that it would take in order to build this infrastructure. This was also paid for through a grant and has been put together, put in front of Planning Commission. I think City Council has previewed this as well, but it's been sitting for nearly a year without adoption, and Planning Commission recommended adoption on that, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
On this one, it talks about the wayfinding map and potential for signs. Do you have a projection of when we'd like to do that, if we're going to do it? What are your thoughts? It's just an idea right now, but obviously it would come with expenses and all that. What's your vision?
Yeah, so we've talked specifically with Public Works and our streets lead, Bowen. So he estimated that the signs and the staff time to put it out would be about $8,000, which may be, you know, assumable in the current budget year. And if not, we'll build it into the 26-27 budget as a line item within the streets department to do that initial wayfinding plan. So that gets you from City Hall north up past the elementary school and junior high, and then swings down 1050 and gets to Barker Park. So we'd like to put out kind of like a test pilot program of the wayfinding signage. And that's indicated in this plan, along with the templates for the signs that we could order in the future for additional, you know, get to the trail here or trailhead in this direction. So it would be built into next year's budget. And then there's a few different ways you take down these major active transportation projects, but one successful way I've seen in the past has been what I would call like chase the pavers. And so you follow all of our capital improvement projects, our repaving projects, and make sure that you align them with the active transportation plan, because the cost of paint is like a rounding error in the cost of actually going out and doing an infrastructure project. So if you can build a bike lane for free because you've already overlaid the asphalt and it's just a matter of where you put the paint stripes down, that's a coordination effort between Public Works, Streets Department, Planning Department, you know, Parks, everybody. So we'll just make sure that we have those meetings and align them as we do capital improvement projects. So the build out of the system, while it might take 10 years, because that's how long it takes to touch nearly every road in the city, you can do it, quote, for free, unless you want to do these major infrastructure improvements.
Okay. My vote would be to discuss those funds in this upcoming budget year.
Yeah. Okay.
Not try to do it off of anything happening this year, but off of brand new discussions.
Yep, that makes total sense.
And I think, yeah, dovetailing into that is the fact that, we need to take the things that are awesome in our city and, make sure that everybody knows about it. I mean, just do people know that there's I'm just trying to, not frisbee golf, what's the correct term? Is that what the correct term is? Ralph, whatever it is. But I mean, does anybody know that we have one? Does, people sometimes, where's the green waste? Nobody knows, and where's the trailhead? Well, if you know, you know. But I mean, some of the features that we've improved upon, like you said, and made awesome, well, let's identify where they are. So I think that's, and was it WACOG? Somebody had a grant for some of that signage? Am I not thinking correctly on that? Anyway, maybe. Anyway, but I think some of that is it's also the trails. Like when we start working on Barker Park, that those trails will integrate across the city. And I think that's going to be the key thing, is identifying how people get from one thing to the other. Anyway, but I think, yeah. And we still have to fix some of where the trails are as we go north, because I think there's a trail going through, is it Lakeview Heights is park? But anyway.
And you brought up a great point that having an adopted plan helps us go out and apply for grant funds. So if you have the plan adopted in your general plan and we see a need for that, we can look at state funds or regional funds or WACOG funds based on the existing plan that we have adopted. So that makes some of the projects a reality.
Yep.
Is that something that staff will be continually looking towards and looking for? Or is it something that, needs some encouragement and support from the council to do that first?
I feel like between the planning department and the engineering department, we've been proactive in
Okay.
looking for and applying for those funds.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, and then the third element is the water use and preservation element of the general plan. So Utah State Code 109A403 requires specific elements for general plans. And as required, a water use and preservation element was required to be adopted by December 31st, 2025. And we got that in front of Planning Commission December 17th. We just missed that. There's no penalty for not getting it approved in time, but it's just something, again, staff wants to recognize that we didn't get this done by December 31st, 2025. We have it complete and in front of you. This, we believe, is compliant with state code. It will be helpful for us in water planning. We do want to point out that the city doesn't own any secondary water system. So that's Mountain View Irrigation and Pine View Water Systems. And our culinary water systems have been planned for with capital expenses and thought about what our resources will need to be between today's population and our build out population. So a lot of this work was essentially complete. This has been more an effort of compiling it and doing the coordination that's required at the state level, which is between all water system providers and the Department of Natural Resources. So those have been done. We believe we've met the state code requirements and present that to the planning or to the city council for recommendation for adoption. Any questions with that one?
So is there anything that needs to be added to ordinances or a new program that we need to do for, like, I know there was something about, we were trying to, John, this might be you. I can't remember we were talking about expanding Pine Views, because they controlled some kind of incentive fee to flip the strip or whatever, and we'd have to pay into it or something, and that's why we don't do it. Is that what it was?
So we would have to pass an ordinance and run the program in order for
That's what
people
it
to
was.
qualify for their flip the strip program. It's
And
technically the state's program, but
it would have cost the city way too much to, yeah. Okay. So, but we as a city has been doing things to conserve and or change the strips that we've had around stuff, which I think is awesome. So,
Yep. And this comes with a series of recommendations on what we can do. There's no obligation from the state at this point in the water use and preservation element of the general plan. And general plan elements are by nature not an obligation, not obligatory. It's something for the legislative body to consider how to take those recommendations and make them action items. So we could look at xeriscaping provisions for the city, ways to eliminate turf grass. I know in our own city projects that we're doing flip your strip or turning those into low water xeriscaping. And then something that's real interesting, if you haven't gone out and looked at our culinary water portion of our website, we have really sophisticated metering in our culinary water that can detect like a leaking toilet. So houses that seem to have a water tap that's running, and we've had staff go out and knock doors and say, hey, I think you have a water leak, would you be willing to let us take a look? And I know that we have had staff in Public Works change toilet flappers and assist people in their homes with these things to be more water conservative. And I think it's really interesting and unique for the city to have that resource out there, and just want to promote that we have been doing this for a long time and now we're compliant regarding this specific plan. Questions? And with that, I take any other questions you have, but Planning Commission recommended adoption of all three of these elements, and we combined them into a single ordinance as a way to open the general plan one time, potentially make those amendments, and then not have you do this 3 times in a row.
Right. Any additional questions for Scott on any of these 3 proposals? All right, be looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2026-02, the general plan amendments to include water use and preservation element, active transportation plan, and the South Town Center plan.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dowpaz. Any further discussion?
Sorry if I am getting confused here. Councilmember Pulver some time ago suggested that we add some different zoning when we open the general plan for a little bit south of the South Town here, in case it were to ever change from what it's currently contracted for. Is that something that we can do at the same time, or has this already been discussed?
So we can't, because we've held specific public hearings for these 3 items. So that would be a separate item requiring its own public hearing,
I
Planning
see.
Commission recommendation, and
I
bring
see.
it forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we'll continue working towards that.
Yes.
So we have these 3 items done. All right, any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
And Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Okay, next item, discussion and/or action to approve the RDA grant allocation amendments for the North Ogden Plaza. And our presenters, again, Scott Hess.
And I don't know, John, do they need to enter into the RDA board now?
We
or
should.
consider the item.
Or is that when we vote?
Well, the budget, it's kind of weird. Technically, the budget is approved by the council, but the RDA typically makes a suggestion. But the way that this whole program was structured was that the RDA created the program and then handed the keys back to the council. So that's why it's not in an RDA meeting. I mean, I think that there's an argument. This is actually kind of the same. It's not exactly the same property. It's right there. It's just kind of moving the money over. So I think we're okay like we're at. If that rambling makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, I'll do it
We're
however.
okay where we're at.
Okay, we're good. So in December of 2024, there was an RDA grant program that was awarded, and this was the remainder of RDA funds as the RDA was closed out. And it was specific to applications. It came in, we had more application requests than we had funds, and it was a competitive process. And one of the grants that received funding of $150,000, and it's a 50-50 match required. So they'd spend $150,000, or they'd spend $300,000, they could get 150 back. So 150 for 150. So the project could be as large as $300,000. And it was Jones Shirts and Signs within North Ogden Plaza. And that's a business owner who rents space within a building owned by Dave Means. And that was awarded. It was a reinvestment in an existing building. And in going back and speaking with the business owner, they didn't have the financial capacity to make that match amount possible. So Dave Meents has been moving forward in good faith. He's had the building repainted. There's been some trim work done, some roof work done, and has done as much as he would like to do as a building owner with that older building, as much investment as he wants to do. In the same kind of location, just to the west of the existing building where there was the approval, is the CrossFit building, Ben Lomond CrossFit. And those folks who operate that business there want to expand and improve that business and that building. And so the request tonight is from Dave Meets, the property owner, and the business owner to slide the money over, utilized in the same area and location, but move it from the Jones Shirts and Signs building, which is the southernmost building there along 1900, to the corner building on 1900 and Washington Boulevard. And it would be the balance of funds. As of right now, what's been brought in is about $30,000 total in painting and renovations and improvements. So we've given back 15,000, so it'd be that 135,000 and some change. But I think the easiest way to do that would be maybe if the RDA or if the council operating as the RDA or however the recommendation works would say that these funds could be essentially shared among the two buildings that Dave Meents owns, then there's an opportunity to provide investment to the new business, invest in the other business as was approved in the RDA, and not have it be so specific dollar for dollar as we try to administer the grant. So I know that's there's a lot there, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those. And John, if you don't mind scrolling down through the reinvestment of the building, that's it's a steel-sided smaller building right now. The building would be expanded to consume the front parking lot, and there'd be a shared parking agreement to move that parking. It would be expanded with new glass glazing all the way around, kind of modernize the look, expand the business. And while it doesn't match exactly the South Town Center, it is reinvestment in the area in a major way that I think these funds would make possible for the business owner and proprietor that may not be able, it would be harder to get across that line without the RDA funds. And I think this fits really closely in line with what the RDA initial goals were for reinvestment in the area.
And as Scott mentioned, I agree. I think this is one of the revitalizing the area, and it would be a benefit. Open up for any discussion or questions for Scott. Councilmember Fulber.
So just wrap my head around the fact that was it 150 that we were going to provide, and then they would have to $1 for dollar type of thing that they would come back. And so I was trying to remember. Stuff happens so long ago, like you said, 2024. But really, if it's an improvement that will bring more money into the city, I think that was the key thing that we were looking at, and or revitalize the area, like you were saying. So I don't see why not. I guess the question would be, is there, I'll say more, but I know we have other funds that haven't been used at all. If there is a, if they wanted to do more, I don't know if that makes any sense, but if, that project's going to cost probably more than that. So if there's more money that can be slid over, I mean, this is somebody that's doing something as opposed to, sorry, I didn't mean to say, did I say that snarky? But I guess I did. It should be something that, hey, there's a business that wants to improve itself, and they're actually doing something about it. If there's a timeline and or money that we can use in addition to the 150, I think I'd be, if anybody else wants to say something about that.
And staff will be bringing back a report on the use of these RDA funds. So 2 of them were city-owned projects that were done. So it's Bicentennial Park and one up by Barker Park. Some that are completed. So Big O Tires, their new signage, painting of the building, some of the parking lot improvements, that project is done and has been awarded. The cannery building is has submitted to us a potential site plan, but they've got some building improvements that they're looking at moving forward. The Northern Ice DML campus is currently under construction with their parking lot and retaining walls. They're moving forward. This is the Jones Shirts and Signs, or the Jones and Dave Means project, which we're asking about. Lock It Up Storage, doing a concrete trail along the Coldwater Creek area on 1900. Have been in communication with us about what to do there. The North Ogden Parks Department of corner of Pleasant View Drive and 400 East is completed. And the other Dave Means project, which was North Ogden Plaza, xeriscaping and landscaping, has been done. So that's along 1900, all of that rock work that eliminated the grass park strip that's been difficult to keep the water on based on UDOT projects and other things going on, that is done. So everybody's making progress. We're not completely done, but the hope is that all of those funds will be used, that there's not a large balance of money left over.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I love the idea of revitalizing this area and making it look better, even if it is a little bit stepping away from this vision we just barely approved in the general plan. But I love the idea, and I think it will really bring more sales tax to our area and just revitalize that Southtown area and make it look a lot better and bring that value that we've been wanting. So I like that part about it. If it's expanding and the west side parking is no longer available, I feel like, I know it is a shared parking, but when there are big events, and should this double their clientele, I just feel like this parking lot has greater a capacity than what it's currently providing. There's a lot of open space that's not being utilized. There's this patch of grass kind of through the middle of it. And I mean, I love that the corn on the cob is for sale and all that. I'm not trying to, I don't want to push away anyone or any opportunity there. But what I'm saying is, I wish there was a way that we could use this parking lot better, strategize or repaint somehow differently, make the entrances different so that if we're already going in and making improvements here, is there any way we can make the parking lot not necessarily match with this level of quality that's being brought forth, but just make it sustainable?
It's a really interesting piece of property. And the reason is because each of the business owners have a section of frontage on Washington Boulevard. So everybody owns this little strip. So that parking is one large business owners association, essentially. So Dave Meets is the president of the Business Owners Association. They all get together. It's a group shared parking agreement, shared maintenance agreement, and it's generally would be a nightmare to administer if we were to start changing things. So as far as, an owner for Dave, they own so many parking stalls out there in front of the laundromat and Jones Shirts and Signs in that building and the CrossFit building. And this shuffles some of the parking around to the north and east. And as far as all of those uses combined and the amount of parking, it's far vastly overparked from what it would be required to have in code. So even when we hold large events there, like the Chalk Festival, that might draw a lot of people for a day, or the parade, parks, it gets full during that day, 360, 3 days a year, it's generally not full. So I'm not too concerned, and I have the same aspiration or wish that you have, which is that we could combine and redevelop those. But for whatever reason, when that was divided back in the 60s, everybody got their own little piece of Washington Boulevard.
So as long as the code is met, then there's nothing really we can do to encourage a change here.
Well, and one other thing that we
Whatever.
probably have to remember is we're dealing with a UDOT road. So if we start messing with entrances, and they may take them away. So I'd actually think they would take some of those entrances away. So if we mess with them, it might make it worse. But
Thank you.
yeah, Councilmember Pulver.
Oh,
No,
who do you want? Okay,
One of you.
So it meets a couple of the goals of the RDA. One of them is in beautifying architecture of buildings, And so it kind of gives some new life to that building. So I think this is a really good use of the funds. And I just wanted to remind the public that's here, this is not using any sort of property taxes or anything like that. It's using RDA funds, which is a sales tax increment. It was a small percentage of sales
No,
tax.
it's property tax from commercial.
What's that?
It's commercial property taxes.
Wait, hold on. I'm saying that the RDA funds come from sales tax increment, no? Property tax increment?
From commercial
Yeah, but
businesses.
what I'm trying to
Yes.
say, what I'm trying to say is it's not coming from
The residents.
residents' pockets. I guess that's the most important thing that I'm trying
Yeah.
to
And it's not,
get past.
and it's the local entities that collect property taxes are giving it to the city.
Yeah. So that's basically the point I was trying to make, is that this is extra funding that is available for us to revitalize the area. It might end up being, this building might be a gym for 10 more years, 15 more years, 20 more years. Maybe someday it will convert to retail. It just gives it a new life. And so I'm very supportive of this.
Councilmember Pulver.
So the only thing, and obviously this is planning commission type stuff, but that intersection is nasty, and pushing out to the sidewalk, I just, I worry that it's going to be something that people can't see around or something. But other than that, that's obviously planning commission. They'll figure out all that stuff. So, but I think it's awesome. There's other opinions about it, but if it's a business that's revitalizing and growing, do it. So,
All right. Well, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the RDA grant reallocation amendments for the North Ogden Plaza.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Watson. Looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. Do we have any further discussion?
so did we need to say how much, or like the remaining, or what did we need to say? Is there anything that we need to say in particular for that, or is it just?
What was proposed was just moving the money over from the other project.
Okay. So we're gonna say the one part that David meets had already done, call that's reimbursable or whatever up to a certain point, and then whatever's left can be used for this other thing.
Yeah, and to date, there's been $26,472 expended on the southernmost building for paint, exterior fixes. That building will continue to receive a small portion of the funding to finalize the improvement. There's some trim and, roof work that'll be done. So I don't have the exact amount of money, but it would be the balance of funds. So I
But-
don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, there has to be don't we have to spend it by a certain period of time? I think that's the thing I worry about, is that
So these agreements have encumbered the money, which is the
That's all we
main
need
thing
to
that
do.
the auditor looks at.
okay.
All right. Any other discussion, questions? Okay, Councilmember Pulver. We'll start
Yes.
with you. Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Carney,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpatz.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, now we'll move on to item number 10. We have a public hearing for a discussion and or action to approve resolution 01-2026, amending the North Ogden City Transportation Utility Fees. And our presenter is John Call.
Thank you, council. So I am going to kick us off, and then we'll have Marcus Keller come up and talk or answer questions and talk to you a little bit about the actual study. His group is the one that did the study for us. But the reason that we started this process and did this study is that the city was facing what I'd call a growing road maintenance backlog, which means roads continued to be put on the back burner, not necessarily because the city wasn't allocating that they were reducing funds that were being allocated, but that over the past 5 years, the maintenance cost has increased by 60%. So that's an average of 12% a year. Over 1 year, that's not a major thing. But by the time you start doing that across many years, what used to take us, we used to be able to get a mile done for, X amount of dollars, and now we can get 0.6 of a mile done. Right. And so it starts costing us more and more. our gas tax funds, our BNC road funds, and other funds have not been increased at the state level in a way which helps us keep up with that inflation. And so we decided that this would be a good path to go down to consider adopting or readopting, I should say, the transportation utility fee with some specific parameters. And basically the specific parameter is these fees would only be used to maintain roads. So that would go to the actual asphalt and project management. We are not currently proposing that these be used to cover snow plowing or things like that because we have some other money that the general fund contributes to cover that. But this would be essentially for construction projects to maintain our roads. And then the next agenda item, we'll talk about the construction projects that are expansion projects, but those are two different kind of areas. The monthly, it's a utilities type fee, so it'll come on everyone's monthly utility bills. It's based on an average use of the road system. It's not based on property values. So, you know, a 1973 vehicle is going to use the road the same way a 2020 vehicle will. And so people should pay per trip. Although it's not like we track cars or anything like that. It's just an average of 9 trips per house is kind of the standard in the industry. And so we have some recommendations for you in this study that Marcus's group did. There's kind of 3 scenarios or 3 options. Staff is recommending option 3, which is a $15 a month fee to each home. And then businesses will pay based on how many trips they generate. So
You said 15, is that 12?
I'm trying to remember. Sorry. Let me pull the study up. Oh. But the idea is that commercial folks pay based on how much they use the system. They recommend under scenario. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong folder. I was going to pull up the study. Oh, you're right. So scenario 3 is $12 a month. And then, I must have got these wrong. Sorry. The one I thought we were recommending was scenario 2, which was $15 a month, with businesses receiving a 90% discount. And then having some sort of cap that the council could establish based on, so that you don't have a business that's paying $7,000 a month for this, partly because commercial properties generate sales tax and some other things that help, as well as they pay a higher property tax than residential uses do. And so there's some offsetting things that kind of help us feel like some sort of a discount or a cap would be appropriate for businesses. The kind of my summary, and then I'll turn it over to Marcus, is that without this money, our roads will continue to degrade. The only other source we would have for revenue to help improve roads is going to be increasing property tax, or magically attracting a whole bunch of more folks to commercial uses and getting new commercial buildings. But what we've found and what we've seen on other cities is if you rely on sales tax growth, eventually it teeters out, and redevelopment is necessary. And redevelopment doesn't necessarily generate more sales tax. It kind of generates more property tax because new buildings are worth more than old buildings. But those are the things we'd recommend. And really those scenarios that are on page 9 of that report are the ones the council needs to talk through. Marcus can give you some additional details on that. And I know that Chris is online, who also helped with the study. If Marcus has questions for him, we can have him hop in as well. So I'll have Marcus come up and provide you some of his other details, and we can have a conversation about this. And then after Marcus is done, we'll open up for a public hearing. We typically don't do that for resolutions, but we anticipate that the state statute that is going to amend this area of the code is going to require public hearings moving forward. So we thought, let's have a public hearing. It also gives the residents a chance to come and participate. And have a good conversation. So,
Staff is recommending option 2 then?
yes, the $15 a month with the,
Okay.
yeah.
And then Chris had texted me. I'm not sure if there's a way to let him participate in case there's any questions that specifically for some of the model questions, he could answer that. I'm just gonna take this off, make it a little warm. My name's Marcus Keller. I work with Cruz and Associates, Cruz Municipal Advisor. So we helped John and Dave and Bowen and Chris and myself work with the city to formulate this plan. So a lot of what we put together is based off a study that was done by iWorks. They went through and evaluated all the city's roads and conditions and average life. Working with Dave and his team, we evaluated kind of what treatments would be needed. And so throughout the study, you'll kind of see that based off RSL, so the real service life left with each road, as well as the cost associated with redoing that road. A couple things I'll kind of just give you a high level of here before we jump into the actual study, and I'm happy to focus on any section you'd like to. So please let me know if there's a certain point or place you'd like to pay more attention to or go into more detail on. But the interesting thing about roads is they kind of have this exponential jump in cost once they get to a certain level of maintenance need. So if you do standard treatment on roads, such as a sealing or something along those lines, it's a relatively, I'll say, cheaper expense than having to do an entire rehab and reconstruction of a road. So the city is actually incentivized to keep their roads on a certain maintenance schedule, because in the long run, it does become cheaper to keep all of your roads at that certain level versus once it drops below, I believe, 4 RSL or 4 years of remaining service life, then you have to go in there and completely rebuild that. And it's, much more expensive, multiples times more expensive. So as we went through that, we decided to put together some scenarios and go into more detail about every piece of that. So again, just wanted to preface it with that, and happy to answer any questions. And John, would it be helpful to kind of just go through the entire study? Is that kind of the preference of the city council, or is there certain questions that you want us to focus on, kind of zero in on? I'm happy to do either or.
I'd say what's council's preference?
I have specific questions, but other than that, I mean, because I think everybody's read through it, but
And I think we went over the study.
December 2nd. Yeah.
One of the changes we did make is that prior to that version, we didn't include nonprofit or non-tax paying entities. This study does include those, so they are contributing as part of the monthly fee, and we can review the model in the back there that shows those monthly fees associated, mostly churches. There are school buildings and other such as well.
So the data shows that you're capping it at $2,000, but scenario 2 doesn't have a cap. So I guess my question might be to John, is that, are you sure that we're not recommending scenario 3?
I think for scenario 2 and 3, I think maybe the best way and preference this, and it could just depend on maybe the mood at that time too. They're generating roughly the same amount, right? That's kind of what to recognize. But the idea is, should we put a little bit more of that emphasis onto the residents or more of that emphasis onto the businesses? And so that's really the big difference. And as we talked to John about it, kind of structuring those two to try to get to that target amount, which was roughly about $1.4 million. Which side, I guess, if you kind of look at it like a scale or a seesaw, right? Which one's going to be paying a little bit more once it's all said and done? So I think if we focus in on scenario 2 versus scenario 3, then we can see that 90% discounts to businesses is offsetting their ERUs by, so instead of $15, they would be paying $1.50 per ERU, whereas each residential home is $15. So we assume each residential home is 1 ERU. Businesses would have obviously multiple ERUs based off the impact and size of that business they're putting on there. Scenario 3 is just a 50% discount. So they would be at approximately $6 per ERU. And we did that with one little caveat on scenario 3. We did cap it at 2,000 because
some of these businesses will have lots and lots of ERUs. And I think it's important if you look at because a lot of people wanted to understand kind of perhaps what the fee is going to be associated with each business. If you look at the model we put together, you can see on those last 3 columns, each one's the fee that they would pay monthly per scenario. And then you can kind of track that for each business as well. So that would kind of give you an idea of why we've capped some of those at 2,000. I think that was kind of the max limit that John and staff and ourselves felt comfortable with. Yes.
Right. So since you have on scenario 2 a 90% discount, then you feel it's unnecessary to have the cap. Whereas if you only had a 50% discount, then that cap would be more essential.
Correct.
Okay. So with the scenario 2, the 90% discount and no cap, you feel that none of the businesses would be outrageously affected.
Yeah, and we can look through that really quick. I'm trying to identify the highest payers as far as scenario 2 goes. I apologize here. I'm used to looking at it on an Excel sheet there. So you would, for instance, the only, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here, you have it in front of you in Excel, a little bit easier to see, but the only business that would exceed that $2,000 would be Smith's, and it would be at the 2025. So it's I guess at the end of the day, there's really not a right or wrong way to do this. Each city's going to be different, but I think it's important to kind of recognize what you need to be sensitive to, right? I don't think North Ogden wants to run any businesses out of your city limits. I don't think you want to be a city that people look at and say is not business friendly. And so that's, as we've kind of looked at this and done all these iterations and scenarios, because even before we narrowed it down to these 3, I think as you guys remember, we had close to 12, 15 scenarios. So, and even after this discussion, if there's a special number that maybe you dreamt about or something, let us know. But we will customize this to you. But I will say it's very important. If you saw that pie graph, I believe that was on page, I want to say page 5. Yep, page 6. It's important to recognize that your roads are in, I'm not going to say rough shape, but if additional revenue is not being used sooner rather than later to start getting on top of your road capital needs, it's going to continue to get worse and worse. And as I prefaced before, more and more expensive, because you're going to miss those opportunities to do a seal treatment or something less expensive. And you're going to have to start looking at more road rehab. So it's going to continue to compound on itself. And even with what we've identified as these scenarios, this is a step in the right direction. But based off that study that was showing the capital need really in your roads, this really is just a first step in that direction. We would, as we talked to John and Dave, we would recommend probably reviewing this to see how close you're keeping up with your capital, how potentially more without hiring additional staff you could do in this before you say, all right, maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, we reevaluate this and update it to see if we're at least making a dent in that need. So
Can you talk through this graph just to make sure we understand it, please?
So based off that iWork study, we broke out and separated all the roads that were evaluated here based off the RSL levels, or real service life levels, left in years. And so you'll notice here that you all have a disproportionate amount of roads that have 5 years or less. So that would include both the red column as well as the dark red column beside that. Those roads typically mean once it gets to that level that you can't just go and put a seal coat or seal in or some kind of inexpensive treatment. Dave could talk to you more about, exactly what that entails. It means you have to go out there and do a complete rehab. Every year that you're not keeping up with particularly those roads in that 10 or less, so the kind of the beige ones on the left side there on the bottom, they're going to continue to go down in service life because people are driving on them. They're getting wear and tear on that. So if you're not able to do some type of capital program to start putting the sealant on there to restart that road. So as soon as you reseal it, now it's back at 20. So then it goes into the green graph again, right? You're trying to push and expand all of those, maybe not into the green graph, but prevent them from going into the red. And so you're kind of racing against the clock, and that's always going to be the case, right? I mean, with any type of asset, but roads, unfortunately, are a very expensive, tough asset to always try to keep on top of. But you're trying to make this more proportional so that most of your roads are in that 6 to 15 year time frame. So you have more options, because once they drop into that 5 years, you run out of options, right? You run out of the ability to do a cheaper, quicker fix. And again, I'll defer to Dave on kind of the price and the headaches involved. We do have some information in here that gives you some detail on it, but it's all of the above, right? It is a headache and it is expensive. And you're basically getting the same road. It's not like you're like, oh, great, now I have this beautiful road that you would have gotten had you just put a sealing treatment on it. So that's the kind of, I'll say, name of the game, is trying to get enough funding to start getting that column to at least pause so that we don't see that red one growing. And then eventually, as you continue to generate more funds and reevaluate your tough fees, hopefully get some of those other pie areas to expand. I apologize. Did that answer your question? That was probably a long-winded answer.
It was great.
Okay, perfect.
You first, ladies first.
Remind me how many ERUs a single family residential home is.
We calculate them as one ERU. So that's how, when you look at that base fee, $15, it's at $15 is one ERU. And then a business's base fee would be $15 times the 90% discount. So that's why we say they're at $1.50 ERU.
I see.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's how much a monthly residential fee would be for a residential user based off that scenario.
John had.
Do you want to talk about the elephant in the room first? Or?
Well, I was just going to mention, one thing I think we forgot to say is that the city has 110 lane miles, which means think of that as a 12-foot wide swath with it's painted where people drive. We have 110 lane miles in the city. And most of our roads do not fail because of overuse. They fail because of age. It's the weather and stuff that causes them to fail, as opposed to, too heavy of trucks or things on them.
So I think the biggest thing is on the bottom of page 9 in the asterisk. I think that's basically where you're getting at, is the fact that if we don't do anything but what we are doing, in 10 years, we will have something, the average will be 2 years, which is in failure, right? I mean, we'll be on gravel by that
even
point.
if you make the decision today to choose, in our opinion, scenario 2 or 3 is probably the ones we're leaning to. We'll leave it up to your discretion which one you choose between those. But even if you pick that red column based off our current information is going to keep growing. It's just not enough revenue based off the amount of roads you have and the need that you currently have. But as we've discussed with city staff, it's much better than doing nothing. I mean, you're at least making a proactive attempt to start solving a problem. And it's going to be a problem that I don't think can be solved in the next 5 years. I think this is going to be a problem that's going to have to continue to be worked on over the next 10 to 20 years plus, because obviously, until they maybe invent asphalt that doesn't degrade the way the current roads do, it's just an expensive asset that all cities are trying to get on top
Stop using salt, right?
But I'm glad you pointed that out. That is important to know, that this is important, but it's just a step in that right direction. Yes, sir.
One thing that I don't know if the study covers, which I think we asked about in the work session, is working towards a plan for low-income residents that can get a break on the fee. Is that shown anywhere?
Sorry.
Dave can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
and this study too, it doesn't prohibit you, just kind of maybe lead into what Dave might be addressing too. It doesn't prohibit the city from being able to have certain programs in place so that if there are low-income areas or seniors or someone on fixed income that may be getting discounts on other services or property tax or whatever, that they could approach the city and ask for that. I mean, a couple hundred people doing that isn't going to really swing the needle, I guess. But obviously, the more that do, then it's just going to lower those revenues. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, and you're exactly right, Marcus, and that's kind of what we've worked towards. So I've been working with the county auditor. So they already have programs, right? There's, I think, about 7 different programs, tax relief programs, inside the county that they get tax relief for hardships, for veterans, for wounded veterans. I mean, there's all these programs, and so talking with her, she said, we can share all of that data with you so that you can just implement those exact same people on whatever program we choose from the county. So if we've decided, hey, we want to use the hardship programs and the wounded veteran programs, like they do, we could literally just take those addresses and those people and implement a reduction for all of those people. So yeah, I've been working with them on that. We didn't put this as part of that just because it was kind of part of the discussion. I wanted to talk to you guys after we decided which way we were going to go so that we could figure out how to implement that.
We figured the table was already long without including the 4,000 plus year.
That's exactly the kind of thing I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And it's awesome if they're willing to share that
Yeah,
with us.
Yep.
And just,
And they won't even have to apply.
Correct.
they've already applied. They don't have to do anything. We proactively go out and match the account and give them the discount, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of what we mentioned too, once this program hopefully is implemented, then once you kind of do the next step is identifying, how many rebates or kind of what the total amount is that's maybe generated over a full fiscal year, then you could, after a couple of years, determine, okay, we've set it at the 1.4, we're really only collecting 1.2, but in reality, we know we probably need closer to 2 or 3, right? Like that's when you kind of take another bite at it to say, okay, let's reevaluate, re-update. Maybe there's some changes in businesses and different things. And at that point, you could kind of update it again. It doesn't prohibit you current state. Well, I guess I'll say, John, current state anticipated law doesn't prohibit you from updating it again, but just know that if it's adopted as anticipated, that this study or this TUF is only good for 10 years before you would have to redo it mandatory. So yeah, so that fee would need to be updated and adjusted based off a new study in at least a 10-year mark.
Another thought that I had.
John's got a comment first.
Oh, I was just going to remind council that in accordance with what you said at our last meeting, after the public hearing, we technically wouldn't decide tonight on this if you'd like to, and we could have it on at the beginning of the agenda next meeting for a decision. That's if you'd like to go that route, just as a reminder.
All right, Councilmember Dalpaz.
I know that we've seen a map of the roads that are anticipated to be completed in the next year or so, David. And I think it would be awesome if that could be, and it does, I'm sure you'd be worried about sharing that map because once you share the map, someone 100% expects that my road will be done within this next year. But I think it would be good to share and circulate that on social media with residents to say, here is the map. Okay, so we've implemented this fee. Here is now the map of all the roads that we anticipate either repaving or doing the chip seal on. And we could have a little disclaimer that says, it may vary slightly from what's on this picture, but this is what the plan is on like a yearly basis. I think people would love that because then they're just like,
So the map
this
that
is
John's showing right now.
Yeah, that's the one. Because then they have a really good idea of what's going to be happening. And, those that live along the roads, they'll be extra happy. But there's a lot of people that travel some of these main roads that will be just as happy as well.
And I will say too, kind of about happiness, as it comes, no resident's ever happy to pay a fee, but no one's ever happy to have to change their tire because, their roads destroyed their tire. They hit a pothole or something and spend $200. I mean, it's all has to do with balance, right? And I think as a city council, you all are elected to try to resolve these hard problems as, or at least understand them. And so, at the end of the day, I never envy city councils that have to go through this process, but I do, applaud you and your staff for being proactive to understand that there's a big need and we're going to potentially look at taking the first bite out of it. So.
Okay, Councilmember Pulver.
So I get what we're doing. I mean, at least for this one time, but I think it would behoove us, and like Councilmember Dale Paz was talking about, showing stuff is to say, hey, this is our plan. Now it could be an estimated plan and we could caveat the crap out of it, but at least we know that in not next year, but the year after, we're going to have to do something exactly the same, and it might double. And I mean, just to say, this is a problem that is bad. And, until we get our hands around it, and it might be more because, like you said, if it doubles and we don't have staff to not control, to manage double the amount, then you're talking about another some kind of a weird split, or John's doing it now, heaven forbid. But that's something that we need to have in front of us so we don't, I'll say forget about it, but so that everybody can see it. And I think full transparency is kind of the key thing. And I think we've been trying to strive for that, however painful that is. Because then people start asking questions. Well, what about this? What about that? Well, I'd rather have that so that people, are getting all the not information, but if there's different perspectives that we're missing somehow, I want to hear them. So the sooner we can get a full plan, long range, 5-year, 10-year, whatever, at least to know, because we're not going to make it on what we have. It's going to be more.
And I think without causing too much alarm, we did identify what that number would need to be to get on top of it. And I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it was over $5 million a year. And we just thought, that's obviously not appropriate based off what we're doing today. But anyways, I agree with you. And one other thing too, we identify here, but just in case you didn't see this piece, really without hiring additional staff, you're really capped at around $2 million. So we felt like this was kind of the good first starting range, because then, let's say you jump up to, you double it and you do 3 million in a few years. Well, then that's going to have other expenses that aren't being calculated, like the hiring of additional staff and employees to help manage that. So I can at least promise you there was a lot of thought that went into all these scenarios.
Any additional questions from Marcus or Dave before we open up a public hearing and we can have more discussion?
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing to talk about these fees, the transportation utility fees as presented. So again, please come to the microphone, state your name, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Brenda Ashdown. I live in North Ogden. I have two questions, I guess. First one being, if I go and I apply and I have it so that I don't have to pay this fee, that means my next door neighbors are going to have to pay double, right? So which side of that do I want to be on? That doesn't seem, I mean, I get it. I don't want to pay for it either. And if I qualify because I don't have enough money, I get it. But if you have a certain amount that you're trying to bring in and we all get waived, because I don't know how many of us old people live here that might be able to be waived. My second question is, I'm really curious, how did we get in this position where our roads are so bad? Were we not paying attention? Were we not budgeting forward for it? I mean, I know there's other things. We've got the sewer, we've got other things that have come up as well. And I wonder are we paying attention to all of those, or is that going to hit us in a couple of years that we got something else that's going to come like this? Are we paying attention to some of these things? Thank you.
Sandy Cochran. I live in North Ogden. I'm hoping someone will say how much you expect to bring in each year for each of those three scenarios. And then what's the max amount that the current city employees can spend on repairing the roads in a year? I want those three comparisons.
Again, John Arrington, a resident of North Ogden. First of all, I understand the whole problem, the situation. I just wonder if there are other methods, excuse me, of getting this money. I mean, what was it proposed, $15 a month utility fee, or anyway, whatever it is, there's just going to be a utility fee. So how do you handle multi-unit functions where everybody in the unit just, I mean, there's a water bill and they pay it. Do they just get one $15 a month charge for everybody that's in there? I mean, I don't know how you make this equal among everybody. Again, I understand the need, and it probably really shouldn't be based on who uses the road, because everybody does. You get garbage collected and people come to visit, but like I have two neighbors that have 5 cars in their unit, and my neighbor and I each have one. Again, I mean, that thought crossed my mind, but it's not a big deal because we got to get someplace, however many there are. But I'm just wondering if, if what consideration there's been given to multi-unit places where there may be one water bill for 4 or 5 units, and it costs them no more than it costs me to have one person. Anyway, I'm sure you've considered all that stuff, and I agree with the need for it. I'm just wondering about the equity on how it's done. Thank you.
Right, looks like no more public comments. Look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the public hearing's now closed. John,
I'd
you
be
want to
happy to.
address some of these questions?
Yes, I can go through the questions and try and answer them with Dave's help and Marcus's. As far as how many folks that can get waived, it would be similar to the property taxes. So it is a fairly high hurdle, I think, for those people who get their property taxes waived. And so it would be very similar to that, meaning that you'd be talking about probably 1 to 2% of the residents would actually qualify, or the actual houses. When you're talking about how we got here, part of that is the significant increase in the CPI, the cost going up 60% in the past 5 years. It typically has always gone up 3 to 5% just because of inflation. But the reality is that, and I'll try and answer another question. Dissimilar to our underground pipes, wear and tear and the life of them is significantly shorter. And so the underground pipes, for example, with the sewer lines, we've been doing a sewer relining program that has allowed us to not only keep the pipes where they're at, but actually extend their life. Right now, they're saying with this plastic liner that goes in that we're actually doubling the original life of the pipe. So it's going to a 100-year pipe as opposed to a 50-year, as an example. In the analysis that Marcus's group gave us, I'll put it up on the screen. This does show the different scenarios and the amount of money that each one would generate. The scenario one would about almost 1,943,000. Scenario 2 and 3 are pretty close at just over 1.4, up to almost about 1.5 for scenario 3. And then from a staff perspective, we feel like we can actually manage about $2 million a year. And I want to make it clear that with the statute that we anticipate coming out, we will not be reducing our current expenditures on roads. So we'll actually see in addition to this 1.4, there's probably another $800,000 of existing funding that's currently going to roads that will go into it still. So we'll be getting close to that $2.2 million of road work happening a year in this maintenance. I'm going to zip down to this graph.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Just real quick with that. So the 800,000 is the extra B and C road funds we get from the state.
Correct.
And over the last 5 or 6 years, that amount has not increased.
Dave's group did a new lane mile calculation, and we actually got a couple $100,000 more.
But not the 60% that the costs have gone up.
No.
Correct. So the calculation hasn't changed. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
The only reason ours has increased is because we submitted to the states showing how many more lane miles we have now.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've seen an increase.
And Marcus may correct me because he probably knows more about this than I do. But I think my understanding is that most of the B and C road funds are coming from taxes that you pay at the gas pump. And those taxes are a tax per gallon, not a tax per dollar. And so you'll continue using the same amount of gallons for your vehicle. And so you're paying the same 35 cents a gallon, even if the price is $5 or $2. It's
Gas tax might be up for debate this year.
Correct.
In the legislature.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to get rid of it, which would
hurt the B and C road
our
fund.
B and C funds.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, and the reality is, and the other thing that I didn't say in my presentation, we are not the only city in this situation. I'm not aware of a city who is in a good situation when you get off of the UDOT roads. So most of the roads that we travel through, Ogden, for example, are UDOT roads. Harrison, Washington, Wall, and then a couple of the east-west roads are actually UDOT maintained. And those are the roads we travel, so they don't have potholes. They're in great shape. But when you get off into the side streets, it's pretty rough. Ask any cyclist who doesn't, go on the main roads. It's just, also every city's struggling with it. Far West released theirs last year. It definitely is last year because it's January. The Maverick in Far West is paying $2,700 a month, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're right.
For their impact fees or for their transportation utility fees. So we're on the lower end. And I think that's okay because I think our roads were in better shape to start with, even though they're rough. I think that Dave's group has done a really good job of keeping us where we want to be. And then I'll answer these last two really quick. On this chart in front of you, a single family home is this code 210, which generates 9.4 vehicles a day. Townhomes is 215. They're calling it single family attached because, it's an independent unit that's larger in size. They generate 7.3 cars a day. And then all the way down to your higher rise apartments will generate, 5 trips a day. So in rough numbers, a single family detached home is going to pay $15. A multifamily apartment that's 3 stories or more is going to pay $750 per unit. So if there's 100 units, then they're paying $750. And that's how the ERUs work. And that's the same. It works the same way for the businesses. You can see that their average daily trips are some multiple of the 9.41, and that's how it's calculated what they pay. And then impact fees are the same way where an ERU, some houses will only currently have one car, some have five. The expectation is over the life of the house, it averages out. And so you have kids, they eventually turn into teenagers and get cars, and then you get a lot of trips to your house. Then you become empty nesters and the trips go away. And so it's this kind of life cycle of the home that kind of averages out across the city. Any amendments to?
Oh, I think
add?
that was.
The amendment I have is that in Far West, the Maverick is actually 7,000 a month.
It's 7,000. Okay.
There were great. We looked at the Far West one and we don't have any issues, concerns with how they did it, but I think you have to always remember too, if you're competing for businesses and growth between you and your neighbors, those aren't, small fees, right? I think that would be a consideration as a business owner if you were going to choose between X and Y. Oh, well, this is an additional $50,000-$60,000 of fees, then that may enable you to have a competitive advantage as you're looking to grow your sales tax base and your property tax as well.
Right. Well, thank you. And council, just as a reminder, we've been discussing this traffic utility for about the past year or a little bit longer. Our discussion tonight should be on whether we want to proceed forward and then which option, whether option 1, 2, or 3. I think staff's recommended option 3 in the staff report.
Yeah, but it's
I meant option 2.
Okay.
I think that I either got my wires crossed or the scenarios flipped around, but
So, and that's all right. But this says the decision for you tonight is we need to either decide if we're gonna do something and pick an option, or like John mentioned, we do have the option to table this for a couple weeks while we think about it.
I'm
Councilmember
feeling
Watson.
confident to go ahead tonight. I don't know how everyone else feels.
Okay. Do we have any discussion, any questions we'd like to make?
Did we feel like if we get the county data of those that are receiving assistance, and that affects approximately 1 to 2% of the residents, that's good in one sense that we get more revenue for the need of completing the roads, but 1 to 2% of residents, I mean, that is it's a very small pie of people that will be able to get assistance. So I just wanted to throw it out there is that something that we're good with? I just don't understand enough about Weber County's programs to say for sure that that's going to be enough for us.
So, and maybe this is where I can see if I'm understanding Dave correctly. We can make a recommendation tonight on which option we want to go with, and then we can before
Plug
it
in
gets
the numbers.
implemented, we can do the programs. Because there are, as Dave mentioned to me, there's 7 programs, and we can pick or choose which ones we want to use, or if we want to do something different.
And okay, yeah.
This is how we run. It is 5% free. At that point, we can, if you guys feel like we need to adjust it down.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. Did this take care of Councilman Pulver? Did this take care of your question about like a soda-like business that gets a ton of trips? That's
Yeah,
coming
I
through
wasn't looking at the right column. So yeah, if we're doing scenario number 2, then yeah, that works.
Okay, well, I'll be looking for a motion either to approve, deny the resolution 01/2026 amending the North Ogden City. Hold on.
So
You can give your recommendation, but we're not going to adopt the
so then
consolidated fee
the
schedule.
consolidated. So if you'd vote on the recommendation, then after we talk about impact fees next, we can approve the consolidated fee schedule because both of them are shown in the current draft, and we don't want to approve the same thing twice.
So you can give your recommendation to approve whichever
Which scenario?
which scenario you would
Yeah.
prefer.
I will recommend that we approve, make a motion, I guess is an emotion, that we approve the resolution as proposed with the staff's recommendation of scenario 2 for resolution 01-2026, transportation utility fees.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Watson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. John, would you like us to vote on this resolution now, or would you like us to wait?
With Councilmember Watson specifically limiting it to the transportation utility fee, I think we'd be okay. We'll just do a similar motion for impact fees for the impact fee portion.
All right. So do we have any additional discussion?
So do we need to say that we need to come back with the low income exemption numbers, or how does that work? I guess if we need to adjust the fee, then we adjust it. So yeah, okay.
Yep.
Just talked myself out of it.
Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Moving on, now we have a public hearing for discussion and or action to approve resolution 2-2026, amending North Ogden City Transportation Impact Fees. And this will be presented by John Call, our city manager.
Okay, thank you, Council. So now this will actually have two resolutions in it. One is that additional portion of the consolidated fee schedule. And then the other one is the essentially enactment of the revision for the impact fee documents. That's the resolution that was in your packet. But Council, this is again kind of a follow-up from previous discussions we've had about looking at the transportation utility fee or impact fee. It's gonna be that tonight. The transportation impact fee, which is what new businesses pay when they come into the city and new homes. What we have found in looking at the Placer AI software that planning department has got for the city is that we are seeing that the businesses located on Washington Boulevard and 2600/2700, about 20 some odd percent are actually coming from outside the city to those businesses. And in theory, a certain portion of them do, travel to their friend's house. They stop at Smith's and then come up to Councilman Pulver's house and have a cheese wheel, or I don't know. But
Cheese wheel?
but there's a portion of them that come pick up their food or their groceries and then head back home to Plain City, Far West, Harrisville. And so the thought was that a good estimate would be that maybe 20% of the trips that go to the business never touch a city road, or touch it so minorly that it would be only fair to give those businesses what their actual impact is and give them a discount of about 20%. That's what staff is recommending. And then in that same discussion, the council suggested that maybe there's also a sales tax program where if a new business is coming in and can show that they're going to generate sales tax, which again is one of those things that helps the city reduce the property tax burden on residents, that we could utilize 5 years worth of a certain portion of that sales tax dollars that come in to pay the impact fees to help incentivize people to come. As a reminder, we can't simply waive the impact fees. State law says if we waive a fee, we have to find a new source to pay it, so that everyone's treated the same way. These two programs together, I think, maintains the funding the city needs for our infrastructure while still making us competitive with our neighbors on attracting businesses. The idea that the two ideas that were in the staff report is just a straight 20% reduction for those that front 2600, 2700. And then I put or are within 400 feet of that intersection. A good example is that the Nilsson's Frozen Custard, for example, would qualify because their UDOT pretty much controls 300 feet of the intersection, and they'll actually rebuild 300 feet of the intersection, just because they like to control where everyone stacks as they go through the lights too. And then the second one on the sales tax credit, what I've recommended is a 20% of the money the city actually receives from sales tax. So when someone goes and spends $100, $1 goes to the city. Well, sorry, $1 goes to what's called the local option or the local sales tax, but that dollar's split into 50 cents, and 50 cents goes to the state pool and the other 50 goes straight to the city. So to be talking about that 50 cents that goes straight to the city, and then I'm suggesting that over 5 years, they get 100% of their 1 year credit, but it's 20% a year, so that over that 5 years, they end up with 100%. But it still allows the city to get some of the immediate benefit of that sales tax dollar, so it can start going to fund things that otherwise other, property tax or other dollars would fund. A good example is, 80% of the money would go to police, rec, roads, things like that to help fund those other programs. And so that's what we've recommended. What questions do you have?
Go ahead.
So I guess the question would be, do we bounce this off anybody? I mean, is this going to be enough? Because I know some sales tax generation is, they're not going to get anything. I mean, even on a projection that might be. So I guess my question is, has we bounced off of any new business or business coming, or does it make sense?
We have talked with at least one potential business. Honestly, the 20% impact fee is much more significant than potentially the sales tax for some. But if a significant sales tax generator came in that was going to generate, $200,000 a year, then that's not insignificant, because that means they'd be able to take and basically over 5 years get $200,000 to their impact fees. We don't have a user that's offering that much as far as like an increment goes. But I think if you start looking at all the businesses that are going to go over there behind Walgreens and O'Reilly's combined, they may generate $200,000. And so now as you spread it across them, and particularly across the rents, because those people are looking what their per square foot price is. So by reducing the upfront entry with the reduction of impact fees, their rent is lower, so it's easier for them to make a profit. And in theory, they're more likely to sign that lease, that long-term, most commercials are 10 to 20-year leases for those established groups, but 5 is, I think, about the minimum.
Any additional questions for John?
Still trying to wrap my head around the 20%. So 20% credit is based on is it just 20%, or is it based on the sales tax? Because to me, it looks like in the staff discussion, it just says 20% credit, but then in the resolution or the impact, what am I missing?
So the resolution is only dealing with the impact fee reduction based on use. The agreement that was attached is dealing with the second component, which is the sales tax credit. And I anticipate actually that conversation about the standard agreement will come back when we have a user. So in theory, the council's kind of saying, we like this approach. Go find a user so they can come to the table and we can talk real numbers with them. Because that will take a budget amendment for the council to say, yes, we're going to move money this way to pay the impact fees and then get the credit over 5 years.
Because it's 20%, but if they don't generate sales tax, their 20% is better than nothing, right? Is that what we're thinking? Okay.
Well, and in the agreement, there's an 80% expectation. If they don't meet their goal, then there's a penalty that they would then need to.
But if we need another awesome bank somewhere, we have to wedge it in that we can. Sorry, I didn't want to.
No, you're right.
It's a joke, people.
If they don't generate sales tax, they won't qualify for the discount.
How do we make this widely known that there's this incentive?
Scott will, every time he talks to someone, he'll make sure they're aware. And then it was brought up with impact fees, people who pay an impact fee can challenge it within a year and get a refund. And I would argue that if there's a reduction in impact fees, which this is the 20% that's a resolution, that we should just go to those individuals who are on 2600 or Washington, have paid the fee in the past year, and say, here's your 20% back. We're so glad you're here. Just because that's the fairest way to treat it. Otherwise, we can just wait for them to sue us. And I think it's easier to just do it this way. And I think we're talking 3 or 4 users. It's not a significant amount.
All right, if there's no additional questions for John right now, we'll open this up for a public hearing. We welcome any comments regarding the reduction of the impact fee, traffic utility impact fees. And again, come to the microphone, state your name, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Brenda Ashdown, I live in North Ogden. This has nothing to do with this. It feels like you have the air conditioner on in here and I am shivering back there. Is it because I'm sitting too close to the back or are you guys cold up here? It is freezing in here.
It's an automatic system. We'll have them check it.
Time. We may not have snow, but it's still winter time.
Okay.
Hey. All right, not seeing any additional public comments. I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, public hearing's now closed. All right, additional discussion on the resolution 02-2026, amending our North Ogden City transportation impact fees.
Just one question really quick. I should have asked this earlier. This transportation impact fee is different than the transportation utility fee for these companies because the transportation impact fee is a one-time fee that happens when they're a new business. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
And it seems like this will meet our need as a city to try to attract businesses. What if we want to look at it a year or two down the road? Is there any anticipation that if we see that this isn't working in a way that benefits the city, can we adjust it? What does that look like? Up or down? Maybe up to 25% or down to 15%?
So you can always adjust it after the appropriate analysis. With our transportation impact fees, we last updated them 10 years ago, and so we're actually going out to an RFP to update them again, and we will specifically ask for them to include this in the analysis. So I would anticipate some tweak as far as the usage along that Washington and 2600 roadways.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'd be looking for a motion to approve resolution 02-2026, amending North Ogden City transportation impact fees as presented.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carney. Do we have any additional discussion? Before we vote, let me just make sure. Do we need to do a second or a third resolution tonight to adopt the consolidated fee schedule after this?
Yes, so if this is a favorable for this resolution, then we would want the council to adopt that same resolution again and basically say we're now adding the impact fee component as stated on the consolidated fee schedule. And I'll pull it up so you can see that.
All right, so we'll vote on resolution 02-2026. Councilmember Pulver.
I thought we were adding something, he said.
He said we got it. We're
New
gonna
one?
vote first and then we'll go back in.
Separate? Okay. Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Now we'll go back to, this was on the, we discussed it with the consolidated fee schedule, the transportation utility fees, and this is or amending the consolidated fee schedule. So will this be resolution 03?
In the same meeting, you could technically still do 01.
Okay.
Or so. But if it actually might be more easy for the legislative record if we do it as 03, if that's what Ryan would like. Yeah.
Okay. So I would look for a motion to adopt resolution 03-2026, which is amending our consolidated fee schedule, which includes these amendments for the transportation utility fees and also the transportation impact fees.
Does it have the tough in there or no?
Well, I think if we just limit it to impact fees, because 01 will do the utility fee and 03 will do the
Impact.
the impact fees.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
But do we need to add the other tax incentive part of it, or is it, we're just doing the?
No, that will come back. We'll bring that back to the council when we have a user so that we can, it'll be an agreement. It won't be part of the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't want to say in there tax.
Not the sales tax incentive. Yeah.
You want to give it a try?
No, not
Okay.
yes. Wait, all right, whatever. Let's see. I motion that we approve resolution 03-2026, which is updating the consolidated fee schedule for 2026 with the transportation impact fee 20%.
John gave you the thumbs up.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So we have a motion by Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dowpaz. Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Carney.
Yes.
And Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
All right. That motion passes as well. Okay, moving on. We're going to review of the fraud risk assessment for the annual audit, and our presenters, Peter, our finance director.
Thanks for having me back. Nice thing about this is we don't have to really vote on it. This is something that is required by our audit. Typically, we do it in June. We had a lot of change in June, and so it didn't get done. So we're trying to kind of play a little bit of catch up here. And for this, this is one of the last pieces for our financial audit, so we can get this completed. Essentially, what this is it's a checklist that my staff and I went through, and as well as John reviewing, to look at different ways in which we are separating our financial controls in the city. So we went through and scored it, and the good news is we score very low, which is good. We have a couple of places for improvement, mostly related to just some credentialing for our staff that can improve that. But other than that, we score pretty high. And I just want to, as a personal note, I want to say that this is the first organization I've worked in where separation of responsibilities between the treasurer and myself are very, very closely delineated. I've been in places where the treasurer has had some of their fingers in the GL, and the controllers had a little bit of cash responsibility. We do not have that here. It's completely and fully separated, which is really good. So, though I do want to, as you just kind of look over this, and for the public's view, we scored, what was it, Pierre? 365 points out of 395 on this. I just wanted to point out, if you scroll to the second page here, all the way to the page number 4 on separation of duties. There was one, we scored yes on everything related to separation of duties. We did have one area that we don't have complete separation, and that is under rules for accounting in government, and in dealing with fraud risk assessment. When you order something, like say you're buying some, we use the term in economics, widgets or doohickeys or whatever. When you order something, you have to have somebody else kind of review to make sure those were arrived, so that the same person who orders it isn't the same person who receives it. Otherwise, I could order some doohickeys and take them to help run my other business, right? So, because we are small enough, we don't always have that luxury of having two separate people being able to order and review, but we do have supervisors who review the purchases to validate or verify those were received, and that's sort of our workaround. We're going to continue to look at that and find some ways in which we can sort of parse it out a little bit better. But that's really all I had to say on it. You don't have to vote on it. It's just an FYI for you to know that we've done this so that we can let our auditors know that this task has been accomplished.
Okay. So just real quick, just a question I have, where we have the two, I mean, we don't have one that's a licensed or certified, any of those acronyms. Is that in any of our plans between you and Casey to maybe get some of that?
Yes. Actually, I think Casey's working on one of them, right? Aren't you? Your CPFO or whatever. He's working on his certified public finance officers. And then I've actually signed up to start my CPA testing in June.
Perfect. All right.
So
Does anyone else have any questions for Peter? Yeah. Go ahead.
Follow on to that question, the bachelor's degree one, is that something that we're looking at doing, or?
So in the bachelor's degree, it's the funny thing is that on our team we actually have somebody with a bachelor's degree. That is Jessie. She is our accounts payable clerk. She actually has a bachelor's degree in accounting. I do not. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's in finance. I think personally, I think this was a little outdated. I don't know if you have to have an actual bachelor's degree in accounting. But we do have somebody on our team with an accounting degree. It particularly asked if someone in the management team has an accounting degree, and that one we couldn't answer. So
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So a bachelor's degree of accounting is better than a master's degree of finance. That's
it
what I'm hearing.
actually is. And if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have done it
Okay.
differently. So
Any other questions for Peter on this? All right. Well, thank you. Still being 365 out of 395, we're still in the very low. So
Yeah.
congrats to her. Good. Yeah. I think our management team's doing a really good job. All right. Moving on. We'll open up public comments. Again, come to the microphone, state your name. I've said this a few times, whether you want to be a resident or not, let us know. And then, yeah, come on up.
Sandy Cochran. I live in North Ogden. So you had a public hearing for agenda item number 10. And then afterwards, the mayor said, well, we've been discussing this for quite a while, so we're here to pick something and vote on it. So if the intent is to discourage comments during public hearing, you got it.
Yeah, John Arrington, North Ogden. I just want to thank you for addressing me, in my opinion, adequately, the issues that I raised. And I appreciate the time and effort you put in. I do have one question though, and it concerns the reallocation of the utility billings. Since I have my bank pay that, do I have to do anything to the address of where they send the payment?
We
well-
kind of addressed that. Casey, because I had mentioned I pay by bill pay, and I asked him, do I have to make any changes? And he said no.
Okay.
So if you're doing it through your bank or credit union, you should be fine.
Well, but I use my credit union with Express Pay. So it depends if you're going through Express Pay or your bill pay. That's why I said it depends. So it just depends which method you're using.
Oh,
So the difference is if it runs through your credit card or your check card, you will have to go online and update it. If your bank actually mails a check and you use the bank's bill pay and they send a physical check, then you don't have to change anything. So really,
It goes to like took a lockbox. I mean, the
Yeah.
address it goes to hasn't changed.
Correct.
Even though the provider has.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, the provider, it's only the provider for the credit card transactions that's changing. Is a
Okay.
good way to think of it.
Thanks. Appreciate your service.
That might be good to include in that explanation.
Okay. Seeing no other additional public comments, we'll move on to mayor, council, and staff comments. We'll start with staff. Ryan? Peter? Casey? Scott? Dave? Chief? John?
You're not out of council assignments. We just thought it'd be good to wait till you pick your fifth member before that happens. Ryan and I were talking, so you could maybe start lobbying him if you want a specific. But again, the focus is on the pillars as opposed to departments. So,
The pillars and finance.
and finance is the fifth pillar, the unseen pillar.
Any
Seeing eye, isn't it?
staff comment or council comments? Councilmember Polar?
Just the one with the city budget subcommittee starting, is it next?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yes. January's flying by. But anyway, so I think we've got most of the people signed up and or oh, Sandy left. But you know, if there's any people that want to, I think Brenda's, but and a couple others. Anyway, so just make sure you get an email and you saw that you're on the list. If you're not, then double check with Ryan. So that's my only comment.
Any additional comments? Maybe John has a comment.
And that's still the 21st is the final day for applications. So just remind people for council 21st at 5 p.m.
And remind me, how quickly does the city council get the applications and the answers to the questions?
We want to send them out that day. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. And just one additional thought I had regarding our next meeting, since you brought up applications. I'm gonna propose that we do a random generator to vote for our next meeting, unless any of you want to pick to choose to go first. But think about that. If not, I'll be looking for a motion to close, to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, meeting's adjourned.